Welcome to the Heart-Centered Entrepreneur Podcast. I want you to be rich. Yes, I want abundant financial success for your business. But I don't just care about your business making money. I care about you too. I want you to be rich in happiness, in the impact you make, in your relationships, and in how you give back. I'm Anna. I built my six-figure business as a side hustle while I was pregnant with my daughter in 2016. Now I've helped dozens of women do the same. I'm here to help you build a profitable, heart-centered, fully booked business with the latest tips on sales and visibility, with proven mindset hacks, and sneak peeks behind the scenes with what's working right now in the online space and in my business. Ready to make more money with heart? Let's go. Hi friends, I'm doing a little 4-part series and interviewing some of my friends and having them share the story around how they navigated a new chapter in business, whether it was the very start of their business. It can be so humbling to be a newbie and to get into that learner's mindset. One of my favorite books for this chapter in my business was The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks, and he really talks about going from the known and the comfortable and something you're good at into something that's more aligned, but also a bigger pool, and you're a small fish, and it's scary and brave, and you're failing a little bit. And I want to send 5 of you this book because I don't read very many business books, but this one was a game changer for me in chapters of newness. So if you rate and review the podcast, email me a screen grab and I will send 5 of you this book, The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. It's a game changer. Trust me. Also, if you're in a chapter of newness in your business, make sure you check out my free training, Sign Your Next 5 Coaching Clients with One Simple Strategy. It really speaks to getting momentum in a really fast way when you're in a new phase of signing clients. Maybe you change your niche, maybe you're just starting out, but that burst of momentum to sign your next 5 paying coaching clients, whether it's for a group or a one-on-one program, you're going to love that free training. I'm going to put these links in the show notes. Now, get out your popcorn, grab your green tea because you're going to love this episode with one of my good friends. Hi, friends. I am so excited to have a guest on today's episode, Lauren Melton, who I got to hug in real life at a retreat last month. She is a weight loss coach for women over 40 and just an all-around genuine and kind human being. And I'm so excited to have you on the show today.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for the invitation. And it was so wonderful to meet you and all of Lacey's other clients in Florida. I felt so honored to be part of that room.
It was so beautiful. I don't leave my house much. We were just talking before we hit record that we're both divorced mamas. We both have kids. And so it makes it hard to travel. It makes it a little more challenging to get out and about.
Absolutely. I also tend to be a little bit of a hermit, particularly in winter, because we were talking about this before we started recording too. I live outside Boston. I do not live in San Diego like you, although I used to. Miss it all the time, especially this time of year. So yeah, it's hard for us to get out, and I need that encouragement sometimes to do that. So it was fantastic.
It was so beautiful. Okay, why don't you start out in case someone's never met you before? Maybe you tell us a little bit about why and how you started doing weight loss coaching for women. Why is that important to you?
So I'm 45, turning 46, and I've been doing weight loss coaching for women over 40 for 3 years now. I had a whole other career prior to this in a whole different other industry. So I was head of HR in software startups and started my career out actually in hospitality in HR. And I loved what I did. It wasn't that I woke up one day and was like, oh my gosh, I hate this work. Let's, do something else. It was that I had my own weight loss journey, which a lot of coaches end up doing, right? Because if they have their own journey, it may lead them to want to do it as well. And over 10 years, I lost 75 pounds. But what really I found was, you can lose weight in a lot of different ways. But the way that I did it was realizing I needed to simplify my life. I needed to have less decisions to make every day. I needed to have less chaos as minimally possible in the busy lives we live. And to be able to do that and do that during my divorce and afterwards and transitioning as a single mom, I just wanted to help other women to be able to do that too. Because I worked with so many other women that I saw, felt similarly to me, felt miserable, didn't have energy. We're waking up kind of just on this hamster wheel every day and just felt like there's no way I could possibly lose weight as being a busy working mom in the corporate world and feel good in my body again. And so once I figured out how it was possible, I just wanted to help other women do that. And I wasn't sure if there was a career to be had there. I mean, I knew there was, but for me. And so I decided to kind of test the waters, and I did both for a year, which was crazy. Well, I got certifications and took on a couple clients part-time and then built it out to where it is. And then now this spring, it'll be 3 years full time.
Congratulations. That is so okay. I have so many questions. I want to talk about this, like that leap concept, right? But before, you actually said something there that I haven't heard a single weight loss coach say before in the way that you said it. And it is that the necessity to simplify in order to get the result. And I just think that's so interesting because, I do hear women say this excuse, whether it's needing to lose weight or start a business, like, I'm too busy for this. But it is interesting because I think it is when we lose the busyness to get the thing we want, actually, we needed to lose the busyness anyway.
Absolutely. And many times, myself included, we think we thrive in that busyness and chaos. And again, I'm not a therapist and I don't unpack past traumas from childhood, but that just may be so comfortable for us, right? Because maybe that's what we grew up in, or that's what we saw, or that's just the default of we thought results equals hard, trying, doing more, right? And so a lot of what I focus with clients on is helping them recognize what would it feel like if you did less? What would it feel like
Which
to
is
make
harder. That's that we don't want. It's easier, but we don't, but it's harder. It's harder for ambitious women, right?
Of course it is. That it's so uncomfortable. It feels so uncomfortable to sit in stillness, right? Or to sit with discomfort of some of the feelings that we're kind of suppressing. So, yeah, I mean, that's what worked for me. And when I realized that, when I allowed myself to let things feel a little bit easier and to simplify making less decisions. We make so many decisions every day.
Yes.
And instead of sitting in front of my closet trying on a bazillion outfits every day and feeling like I looked horrible in all of them, finding, okay, this one works. I'm just going to keep repeating it in different colors every other day.
Yeah.
As simple as
Yes.
that. And those little decisions that can compound over and over. And then it's easier to have the space and the capacity to do the things that make weight loss easier.
Wow. Wow. This is so interesting because I do think like I get this thing people say to me all the time, like, how are your life must be so hard and difficult because you're a single mom, you have your kids 100% of the time, you're living in San Diego, like it must be so hard and heavy and complex and difficult. And like I look at the other women around me who are married in not in bad partnerships, right? Who and yes, I do have a lot working for me. I have have amazing supportive parents, like, but I also think that like actually my life is not that bad or hard. Like it's actually pretty easy and easier than a lot of people's. But I think it is because of what you said. I had to radically simplify by necessity. But then in hindsight, I'm like, damn it, like, why didn't I do this earlier? And give like I was talking to a friend who was like, oh, I could never hire a babysitter. They're too expensive for me and my partner's date nights or whatever. You know what I mean? And I'm like, I hire a babysitter all the time, right? Like, so I think it's like almost out of necessity, but then it ends up serving us too.
I relate to that so much. And again, maybe it was necessity that we were forced into this position of like, if I don't make my day to day easier with two kids alone, like I'm going to lose my mind, right?
Like literally, this is like life and death. Like this is make it or break it, right?
Yeah, and I do see this, and a lot of times, my clients they'll always say to me, "I feel bad complaining when my husband's traveling for work," and I say, "Listen, first of all, that's on me. This is a container that's safe for you, and you never need to like worry about
Yeah,
my feelings with things,
100%.
and that's my place to use the appropriate, ways to support that." And it is probably harder for you because that's not your regular routine. That's not
Yes.
and so I'm used to being alone all the time. And it
Yes.
is harder for you to have someone that's usually there and then gone and coming and going. So, I think when we can just allow ourselves to recognize it's okay to let it be easier and then to just make these decisions that even if they seem simple, they're not necessarily, right? It could still be hard to make some of those decisions and release some of the attachment to them. I mean, I don't know if you find this, but like my kids, they do so much. They're so capable and competent. And granted, they don't have learning disabilities. They don't have things that are holding them back, in order to be able to do that. But I see plenty of their friends and they don't do anything.
Yes. Yeah,
They
you
do
don't know.
nothing.
Yes. Yes. My kids
Yeah.
fold their own clothes every night, like all that stuff.
Yeah. So all of this plays into it. I allow them to do that. I make them do it. Right. And so I think it's
Yeah.
the same way with me, just, in the approach I take with myself. So.
So fascinating, really. And it is not that I'm saying like, oh, it's easy to simplify your life because I think as high achieving, high performing, productive women, that's why I think the online businesses were like, oh, let it be easy. That can be really irritating because I think letting it be easy, letting it be simple, letting it be light, the transition into that is very hard.
Absolutely. And it also doesn't mean you don't have to work hard. And that's
Yes.
the piece that I think is the difference, right? Like
Yes.
I used to also in for a while with my like content talk about like how to make weight loss easy. And I realized like with Lacey's help, our business mentor, that I was really pissing off a lot of women
Yeah.
because it's not actually, it doesn't feel easy. Nothing about it feels easy. And so instead it's more about like, okay, how can we let go of that idea that you have to try harder or that you have to make it harder because it already is hard and like focusing on that piece of it so then it just does become a little bit easier. But you still, it's just like our businesses, right? Like I work
Yeah.
my butt off in this business.
No, no, no one works harder than me. Like I am
Right.
the
I'm
hardest
not
worker.
working 20, 30 hours a week.
Yeah.
Maybe some people are doing that and growing their business to big. That's great. I'm working a lot and I'm okay with that. But also behind the scenes, the way that I am working, I'm trying to make sure I'm not overcomplicating it, that I'm setting it up in ways that make sense that are quote unquote easy so that I can get the best impact and get the results.
Yeah. Yes. And I think too, Lacey says this too, but like there's a difference between ease and easy, right? Like I wouldn't say like I would say like going after what feels like there's ease, like there's alignment, like there's simplicity, like my day is full, right? But it is full, but I'm not feeling like I'm panicked about it or something.
Absolutely. That makes so much sense.
Okay, so good. Okay, so maybe tell me about either from your business or from your life or a client example, like a time when you had to go from something that was known and familiar and maybe working fine to something that was even better but uncomfortable and stretchy. Any examples there?
Yeah, I mean, definitely with the business transition. I was in startups are chaotic, right? Because it's a little wild, wild west, but it was so familiar. I had done it for a decade. I had kind of come into these organizations and helped build out their HR team and help them grow and then kind of get to the point of acquisition. So that was my norm. It was my day to day. I was used to that routine. And I had a team. That was
Yes.
transitioning to being a solopreneur and it was just me,
Yes.
that felt so uncomfortable. And I did utilize resources to, be part of a mentorship and a mastermind and, make sure I had other people, but they also were all online. I had never worked fully remote previously. I mean, I was still in the corporate world when COVID hit, and of course we were forced to become remote. But that was at the tail end of my career. And yeah, so after that, I'd never really been fully functioning remote. So that was a lot of two different things, not having a team, working from my, bedroom with a laptop and, my two cats and the kids. That was definitely something I had to like step out of my comfort zone. And I've always been really hands-on in roles because in startups, it's a little bit like you've got to be doing and, strategic and executing. But at the same time, I had never launched my own business. I had never set up QuickBooks to do my my bookkeeping. I had never, so I built a website myself using WordPress and a like template and things that I were way out of my comfort zone in my 40s, right? So it
Yeah.
was definitely something that I had to get comfortable with some like messy action in a way that I had previously always had a team and people to support with.
What do you think most helped you in those moments of feeling like you had to be a newbie, feeling like you were not successful at something at the beginning, right? Especially as someone that was like used to being the go-to and admired and high performing and good at things. Like, how did you manage your ego slash self-esteem slash all of that as you were going through that messy part?
Yeah, it's such a good question. I think one, I had to get very comfortable with messy action. And meaning I wasn't putting sloppy work out there, but at the same time, in the past, I could have held myself to a different standard, but I had to just kind of test things. And which isn't that different than I was in software like SaaS space, right? So there's a lot of right, you do that, get the MVP, the
Oh,
minimal viable
yeah.
product, get it out there and test it. But in HR, it wasn't really what we were doing, right? That's what the like developers were doing. So I had to take a little bit of that mindset to be like, okay, I just have to get this out there. So like when I took on my first 5 clients, I literally just put a story up on Instagram that said, hey, I'm going to take on 5 clients like part-time in nutrition. Is anyone interested?
Yes.
And I
Yes.
created a Google form and I didn't have a website. I didn't have, anything really set up yet. I just had to allow myself to recognize that I was going to need to do a little bit of that if I was ever going to get this launched. Otherwise, I would sit back probably today and still not have something
Yes.
launched.
Yes. That is so interesting because I feel like I hear for a lot of my clients that are health coaches or life coaches, or even for me, like at the before I did business coaching, I did life coaching, and I really was Googling on repeat, like, do I need a certification? Is this legal and ethical? Like, I really had a lot because I was going from therapy, which is a highly regulated profession, to coaching, which is not regulated. And I just could not wrap my mind around it. It took me far too long.
I did that the first 2 years. I kept because I was new. I'm a newbie, right? And I want to be seen as the most like competent coach. I don't want to be one of these like, oh, a health coach that's part of an ML, seen as an
A
ML,
hundred percent, a
event,
hundred
right?
percent.
So before I even launched for the 5, I got like 3 different certifications, right?
Yeah,
And
yes, yes.
of course, I did need some of that. That was necessary.
Sure,
But
sure.
then
Learning is good.
I continued that. Like I kept being like, oh, I need to get this program design course and that and this biomechanics and all of it was useful. But finally, like a year ago, I was like, hold up.
Yeah.
Hold up a second. All the certifications, all the education in the world, you need to just so much of what I've learned has just been doing the work with the clients.
What do you think was that factor that finally gave you the gall to be like, okay, enough of the certifications. You need to like start doing the work.
I mean, someone flat out told me. I had a mentor at the time.
Which is helpful. Sometimes you just
Yes.
need someone to tell us that, right?
Yes, that was like, well, this isn't really what's going to drive you have happy, engaged clients. They're renewing with you. So, could you be a more effective coach? Sure, right? That's always good to
Yes,
improve
always good to
coaching.
learn.
And always am. But that's not what's really going to drive the success in the next phase of your business right now.
No, it's just such a unnerving thing to be told. I remember like at the time I had gotten my master's degree, I was in the middle of applying for my second master's degree, and I would have done it if I wouldn't have gotten pregnant. And so like, but I was taking so many different certifications and thingies and again, not that that's bad, but I do think we have to partner with it actually doing the work. Like how can we do the work and then equip ourselves and read books and take as like a supplement to that, right?
And I know this probably isn't controversial, maybe it is, but we all know it's probably absolutely true. This is so like gender specific, right?
Yeah,
Women do
100%.
this over and over. Working in HR, it was so fascinating to see applications come in.
Oh,
And I
tell me about this. Please tell me. Tell me everything.
Oh, men would apply and they would not have a single qualification for what we're looking for, right? But still
Of
like, oh, I'm
course.
going to apply for this. And women, it would be the opposite. If they didn't check every single box, they'd be like, oh, I don't think I'm probably ready for that. And it's just, again, putting ourselves out there, recognizing that like, maybe we don't need to have every single thing to check off on the list. And what would that feel like if we did that?
Oh my, I mean, that is just the truth, right? And I think what I did for a long time is like self-select out. Like I didn't want to be unethical. And so but if finally I got to the place where I was like, what if I just tell my clients who I am? I'm not going to lie about who I am, but I'm just going to be like, this is what I am. This is what I can offer and let them pick if they want to work with me or not. Instead of I was almost like being codependent and like self-selecting myself out. Cause what if I'm not the best coach for you? What if I'm not qualified enough? What if I'm not trained enough? Right?
Absolutely.
Yes. Okay. Talk to me about weight loss over 40, especially for busy women, for mamas. Like, what are some of the biggest sticking points you see those women struggling with, etc.?
Sure. And I had kind of like, I would say like 2 phases of my own weight loss. And I don't know if I joke sometimes that it's like maybe so that I could be the most effective coach possible for the women that I'm supporting, I had to go through some pretty horrible situations. Because my first phase of weight loss was pretty typical. And I was a little bit younger. I started, well, younger is all relative. I was 35. So when I started, and I used to drink every night. Like I had wine with dinner and I was kind of eating whatever I wanted. I'm 5'11", so I can carry a fair amount of weight without people noticing. And so it was, more of the basics back then. And again, the basics are always necessary. You're going to need to consume fewer calories and you're going to need to move your body more. It's, the energy balance equation, calories in, calories out. We've all heard this. But that's so oversimplified, right? At some point, things get way more complicated. And there's a lot of coaches out there, particularly a lot of male coaches, who like to talk about how it's always the same and there's not, people are preying on women in perimenopause. And that is very true. There's a lot of supplements and a lot of people out there who are taking advantage of a group of women who one has been under researched and hasn't really gotten the attention it should and feel really crappy. And so the combination of that has led to this, but at the same time it is different. And so when I hit 44, it hit me like a train. Like all of a sudden the thing, and I was already coaching at this point, right? And I knew the things I should be doing. And all of a sudden I was waking up completely bloated, like hard as a rock in my belly, and couldn't figure out why. Couldn't lose weight to save my life. And not that I needed to like lose any more weight, but things just felt harder. I felt like I couldn't eat as many calories anymore. I felt like I couldn't eat out as much anymore. And so I had to go through my own journey to kind of figure out like what are these other pieces in perimenopause that support weight loss. And at this point, I'll say I'm really grateful I did because now I can help my clients even more. So all these other factors that I talked about with my clients, but I just got much more skilled at understanding the impact and how to actually move the needle with them. So the biofeedback markers, like your sleep, your digestion, your blood sugar regulation, again, stress, like the stress management piece and just understanding how much your body and somatics play into the whole equation here. And so both of those are important. So yes, it's what you're eating, how much you're eating, how much you're moving, how you're moving your body, and how you just support yourself from a day to day and how your life and what that looks like and bringing those two together. I think as particularly for women who are going through perimenopause and into menopause, that's really what can make it quote unquote easier or harder on yourself.
I love that you're coming with that knowledge, right? And like we talked about, like so important to have that the context of perimenopause and menopause in it for the weight loss, but also what a great educational tool just in general, right? Because I feel like you said, we change as women, and so having that awareness is so useful.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I wish, again, and I would never go back and change anything. I'm so happy with my life and where things are at. But I'm like, man, if I knew some of this when.
Yeah. What? Tell me what. Like, if you could, you're 44 now, right?
45, turning 46.
You're 45 now. Like, if you could have a talk with your 35-year-old self, maybe there's someone who's 35 who's listening to the podcast. What would you most want to tell that version of you?
So many things.
You're like,
So
how
many
much time do you have?
things. Where do I start? I think first, the role of motherhood. I was definitely playing a lot of that mommy martyr role of, and also trying to climb the corporate ladder. And the combination of the two just made me feel like it was completely impossible. Like, okay, well, you're either going to be successful at your job or you're going to be a good mom. And while you're trying to do the two of those, there's no way to take care of yourself. Like, who are these women who work out? Like those, that's not me. That's not possible. So I would let them know that like in taking care of yourself and learning how to use boundaries appropriately so that you can fit in a workout, so that you can prioritize your nutrition, you're going to be way better at your job, right? And you're going to be a way better parent too. And it took me way too long to realize that. And my kids are teenagers now. My youngest just turned 13 last month, and my other son's 14, turning 15. And again, I'm not going to shame myself for the way that I supported them when they were younger, but they were not eating the things that they probably should have been eating. And I was just doing what I could. And now, compared to what they understand and what they do, and because what they see me modeling and how we live, and we still have snacks and chips and ice cream and all those things, but just more awareness around it. I wish I had that when I was younger too, growing up. So I think those are the biggest things I would want to recognize is that time. I know it feels like you don't have any time, and you don't. Truthfully, the whole 24 hours in a day, that's the last thing you want to say. We all have the same 24 hours in a day to a mom who's like trying to balance it all. And equally on the other side of that is everything's going to is going to like fall into place in a way that you don't even recognize when you start doing some of these things that feel really hard today.
I love that. That feel hard today, but over time will make things easier.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that so much. As you were talking, I was having like an interesting flashback to I am 37, but I was thinking back to like when I was like in my early 20s and didn't have kids, didn't have like, but I just can imagine like I was more in like the corporate world. And so I was just so stressed out of my mind. Like I remember one time I had like hurt my leg and so I was walking a little slower and at least four people stopped me to ask me what was wrong because I was walking slowly.
And also, because I'm going to make a stereotypical comment. If you're a fast walker in San Diego, like that stands out because people do move a little bit slower there than I'm from
It
the
wasn't
north.
in San Diego. It was in
Oh,
San
it wasn't in San
Diego.
Diego. Okay. I
Now
just
that I'm in San
remember
Diego, I walk slower. Okay.
when I moved to San Diego, people literally told me to slow down.
Yes,
They're
people walk slow
they're like,
here.
you're bringing a lot of East Coast energy over here. But
Exactly. But I say that to say that like it's so interesting looking back, like in these seasons where we're like, oh my God, and I actually did have a lot going on and I had way too much responsibility and
yes.
I did have a lot, right? So I'm
Yep.
not trying to validate that version of myself, but I am saying like in hindsight, like in some ways I have more on my plate now, but I don't feel it as much. So it's just interesting.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it was just my son last night was like, kind of having a moment about homework and he was just blowing it out of proportion, right? And I knew that, and so a little I was like, let's just take a break, right? Like, let's take a break and come back to it. But so many times when we're in it and we're just like looking at this mountain of what we have to do, and that, he was looking at the whole list of it. And then there was a little bit of the inequity piece of like he knows what his brother used to have at this grade, and he has more than his brother did.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Sometimes that just happens with what teachers you get. And it's like,
Yeah.
but so it's, anyways, so unpacking that, I was like, I just see so much of myself sometimes in my kids, right? When I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, when we have all of this, right? We're moving so fast and we're going through it. And like, sometimes we just need to take a step back, slow down, and, do some of these things, right? That feel uncomfortable and hard, but it's going to make it easier in the end.
Yeah. I love that. What do you think distinguishes how you coach your clients, maybe from other coaches or ways of thinking around weight loss or health?
I like to look at the whole person and have that connection with them. The ones that do kind of bring me into their world more, I can help them more fully. And even just like when I made edits to the like check-in form that they use every week with the questions I was asking them and how I was asking them so that I got more out of what was really going on with them, that's when I was able to best support them. Because it's not yes, it's macros and squats, right? Like, are you hitting your nutrition? Are you getting your workouts in? But it's so much more than that. And, when I know that they had a fight with their spouse that week that like this really set them over the edge. And, they're really struggling because they have an aging parent and, trying to figure out how to get them into an assisted living facility and, all of that. That's when I can help them come, really talk through one, just feel seen, like just have a container where they feel safe enough to be able to like know that they can share that. And sometimes it's just me flat out telling back to them, like, you have a lot right now. You're holding a lot. And just saying that to them makes them have this sigh of relief to like, yeah, I do. I am carrying a lot right now. And then we can get to the place of talking through the like, so it's not white knuckling through it, right? So it's not just like, okay, try harder. Oh, you got to hit your numbers next week, or like, oh, that's a big piece of it. The other piece is helping them learn how to rebound quickly because we eat every day, multiple times a day. There are so many opportunities for us to feel like we screwed everything up. And the truth is, we all know that like it's never the one meal, right? It's never the like dinner out where you overindulged or the Thanksgiving or the whatever. It's the 99% of the other meals in your week.
Yeah.
And so when I can help them recognize and catch themselves in those moments to learn how to kind of like reset and recognize that and not bring shame to it and bring curiosity, I like to really think of us as like, okay, let's bring curiosity into like, why? And instead of feeling like there's something wrong with you or you did something shameful, because anytime we bring shame into the equation, particularly with anything related to our body, it's never going to serve us well. So I think those are kind of the two things I really try to focus on the most with my clients to help support them.
It's so interesting. I think it's just true in life, right? That like mistakes are normal. You know what I mean? Or like I call them in business like micro failures, right? Like maybe maybe not as many people came to the webinar as you wanted to, or maybe that sales call didn't convert. Like, especially coming from high performance background, we're not used to as many failures. But in business, failures are normal,
Yep.
right? Like even if you're making a lot of money each year, you're going to have these micro failures, right? And so I think it's just interesting to rewire our brains around like, okay, maybe I can have big picture success and have these micro failures. If I stop, it's not the failure that holds us back, but it's how we're seeing it, how we're shaming ourselves, and then what happens after that.
Absolutely. I mean, the quicker you get to that failure, the quicker you can like figure out like, okay, what do we need to do here to get this to where it really needs to be? So I think that's a huge part of it. And there's just a lot of we have a lot of feelings when it comes to like things related to food, right? And so a lot of times people think, oh, I'm addicted to sugar, or I'm weak, like I have cravings and I have these cravings all day. Now, absolutely, there could be things that are making it you more crave more sugar. Like there are scientifically things that do that. And, at the same time, there's always this other piece behind it of like, well, how are we using food at different times outside of our meals, right? Or how are we using it in the meals? And how do I help them recognize that some of these cravings are coming from other areas, and how to expand their toolbox of resources to support themselves so that maybe they're just using it less often and to recognize that, like, you know what, just what if we actually like thanked ourselves for the fact that that helped you get through whatever it did. And
Oh, I love that. That's so
yeah,
beautiful.
well, particularly for women who have a larger weight goal, right, and who have maybe been overweight their entire life,
Yeah,
right? Like some
yeah,
clients are coming to me and they've been in, they literally their entire life, they have no identity as someone who's not overweight.
yeah,
And so to help them recognize that, like, you know what, that maybe there's taking some even approaches that might sound a little like out there, but
yeah,
like, if we need to get somebody moving,
yeah.
and to do this two things at the same time. So like instead of shaming yourself for whatever snack you're like, I can't stop eating this, like go take a walk while you eat some of that. Right? Like
Yeah.
what would that feel like if you just did
Wow.
that? So
I love some of this dismantling, and I think you do have to use some really clever approaches. When I used to work as a therapist with eating disorder clients, obviously it's like a completely different world, but it's really interesting because there's this popular concept about like when you have an addiction to alcohol, you can be sober and not ever have alcohol again. When you have an interesting relationship with food, you cannot not eat food. And so it
oh,
is this very, I know it's like a different world, but it is interesting in the fact that we all have to figure out how to navigate our relationship with food. We cannot avoid it. And so I love that you're taking unique approaches to mending people's relationships with food, because I think sometimes we have to be innovative.
absolutely. And the other thing is our brain is so hardwired to like what we think we screwed up or the one thing we didn't do, right? And celebrating wins is a huge part of the process because particularly when, the scale is one tool to use to see progress, but it is not necessarily even the best tool because we want women's strength training. We want to make sure they're preserving muscle and bone density and all these things. And for some women who don't have a lot of weight to lose, it might be that they need to like change their body composition. So, but either way, it's rewarding. You step on the scale and you see that number, right? And oh, the one day it's up, and not recognizing there's all these other factors that go into play with it and whatnot. So when we can help build all these wins in other areas and have like celebrating these wins of like activity related and just all these things that like all of a sudden are becoming a little bit easier to do that used to feel like a struggle, and just celebrating those because our brain's going to constantly go to the like, I screwed up last Friday night, went out to
Yes.
happy hour, and and so a lot of that is the work that I have to help clients with too.
It is so easy to get into the macro pieces and the micro instead
Yep.
of looking at the macro, not like macros, but like the macro picture of life or business, right?
And zoom
And
out.
I had a client the other day where she didn't get a lot of people signed up to her webinar, and she was like going to cancel it. Fortunately, she didn't, because she did great to the limited people that showed up, and she ended up making a bunch of good sales, right? So I just think that's such a great example of like, so often we are not a good interpreter of the micro. We're just so close to it, right? We're so close and we make so much meaning around it.
Well, and that's, being a coach, having a coach yourself, and same for me, That's one of the best things about having a coach.
Yeah, yeah,
When
exactly. Someone to have that less emotional investment, right?
Yes, yes. And like to be able to zoom out and to be able to show you one, some of the things you are choosing not to see or just don't see. Um, Also to call you out at times, right? When there are certain things that like I've been so glad in my experience working with Lacey for her to help nicely do that with me. And she does it in the kindest way, right? And has like transformed my business.
Yes.
And just I see that with coaches, and I have my own coaches on my fitness nutrition side for myself as well. Having that and just knowing that you've got someone there and to be your cheerleader at times and to be able to point those things out when your brain's not going to let you do it.
I love, and I think too, like as someone hires a health coach, what they're also just energetically saying is, I'm going to prioritize this in my life, right?
Mm,
Like, I think it's like forced, like there's someone else to advocate for that part of your life. You're really adding importance there, right? I think same thing in business or in anything, but I think hiring a coach is so symbolic because it's just really saying, I'm ready to put my time, money, energy, resources into this thing that kind of matters mostly for me. Obviously, we know it helps everyone else too, but I just think there's something symbolic about that.
absolutely. And I think in general, again, maybe I'm stereotyping, but all women are, it's uncomfortable to allow themselves to receive that type of support in many areas of their life, right? Asking for help, allowing that in, trying to let go of this. I should be able to do all of it and juggle everything. Meanwhile, society is set up in such a way that makes that impossible. Particularly when it comes to health related things, if we're talking about fitness and nutrition, it's like, oh, I should just know how to do this. Or like, oh, this is embarrassing if I need someone to help me with this.
Yeah.
And some of my favorite clients to work with are the ones that they honestly don't even have that much weight to lose at this point. They've already gone through that, but they keep me on because they're like, oh no, like I know I deserve this. I'm going to allow myself to have this support.
Oh, I love what you said on that last sentence, right? Like, I deserve this and I want this support. And it reminds me of like, whether it's like and I know it's different than having a hobby, but I think for me, a big thing has been like having a hobby, like taking dance classes that don't do anything else but like give me pleasure. It costs money and it costs time and it just makes me happy, right? And I think like I mean, men get this. Men go hunting, men go golfing, right? Like, but I think women don't get this thing of like, it has to be productive, it has to make me money, it has to save me time, right? But it's okay to spend our money on things that make us healthier, happier, more peaceful. And I love what you said, like, even if you're not doing horrible, right? Like, what if this could improve the quality of your life in a really practical way?
Absolutely. I love that. I love that you do the dance classes. It's so fun.
Yes, I know, but it is so interesting, right? Like to to invest in ourselves and we know at the end of the day that helps everyone else too, but initially it really is just for us, right?
But I also think what you're doing there, and it doesn't have to be just dance, but you're moving your body for fun.
100%, 100%.
There's so much value in that. And in the beginning, when I'm working with clients who are particularly who don't have a regular workout routine, a lot do. A lot of women come to me and they're already like doing 1,000 things and they're frustrated because it's not working. Why isn't it working? But some aren't because they're frustrated. They don't know how to fit it in. And the first thing you need to do is just get them enjoying moving their body for fun and recognize how that feels once you start doing that.
I love that so much. Okay, I could talk to you all day, but tell us if people have fallen in love with you, Lauren, listening to you on the podcast and want to hear more from you, tell us the places they can find you online.
Sure. Instagram is where I am mostly at, and my handle is This Life Uncluttered. And I do have a great free resource. It's called The Playbook, and it goes over all what like helps you to feel your best, most confident, like hottest self in your 40s to be able to lose weight, and why those like old routines we used in our 20s, that they're just no longer going to serve us. So that you can definitely, I can send over, or I don't know if that's something I can link in the show notes, or but that's a great place to start if it's someone, particularly if you're like taking action, doing things. It feels like you're doing all the things, but it's not working for you. There's nothing more frustrating than that. And my playbook is a great place to start.
And you're a great poster child for that because I did not know you were in your 40s. Okay. Like, tell me why I thought you were like 32 or something. Like, literally, when I went to go look at your niche on Instagram, I'm like, why does it say for women over 40? Oh my God, is she over 40?
Oh my gosh, thank you. We can keep talking. Thank you.
No, for real. Number one, when I saw you in person, but like, I mean, this podcast isn't a video podcast, but I'm like, I thought you were younger than me, and I'm
Oh
37.
my gosh, no, that is not definitely not the truth. But and I not to toot my own horn, but I am told regularly they're like you're aging backwards, and it is fascinating because I go back and forth on like before and after photos because I have a lot of opinions on them, right? And
Yeah,
I don't ever really share my clients. So I use my own a lot
of course.
because they do activate people to be like, oh wow, and be able to see something, to be able to say,
Yes.
if she could do it, I could do it, right?
Yeah.
And although I have mixed feelings on it because,
Yeah.
of all the reasons. But anytime I do, it's so funny. People are like, you look like you've like that, you look like you've lost like 20 years.
Yes.
And part of
Yes.
it's just from feeling so much better. And
Yeah.
I'll tell you the cheapest secret, drinking more water.
Ah, yeah. Literally, as my kids were leaving the car for school, I'm like, drink more water, drink more water. They're like,
Literally drinking
okay,
more
mom.
water. The
I
cheapest
need to
beauty
do my
hack
bit.
you'll ever find.
Yes, I love that. Lauren, thank you so, so much for being on the
Thank
show.
you.
I'll link all of that in the show notes and just really grateful for you.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me on. This has been so fun.
Thanks for hanging out today. Please hit that subscribe button so you can make sure to stay updated anytime a new episode drops. And I would love for you to join me in my free Facebook community. It's called The Heart-Centered Entrepreneur. We discuss the podcast episodes. I regularly go live and do free trainings. And you may even meet your newest biz bestie. So you can join at heartcenteredcommunity.com. It's absolutely free, and I cannot wait to see you in there.